Senator Schumer's mantra about the public option for health care reform has been this, that the fight was toughest in the Finance Committee. It would get easier on the Senate floor and would be easier still when the Senate and the House get together to reconcile their proposals. And in our fourth story tonight, Schumer has claimed that the more Congress talks about the public option, the better its chances get because supporters can bat down the lies about it and its support then grows. A new poll from the Kaiser Foundation finds support for health care reform overall is rebounding from the pounding it took this summer, but will that be enough? Let's bring in MSNBC political analyst Howard Fineman, also political columnist and senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek. Howard, great to see you.
Hi, David.
Was today a sign of hope or a dead end for the public option?
Well, it was a sort of barely alive, semi-dead end. It ain't over because there's still at least 4 major steps in this process. The final vote in the Finance Committee, a vote on the Senate floor out of combined bills from Finance and the Help Committee in the Senate. Then if it goes to conference, which it then would with the Senate and the House, and an agreement there if there is one, and then final votes in both the House and Senate. Those are all opportunities for supporters of the public option to keep trying. It ain't over till it's over.
Senator Ben Nelson, Democrat of Nebraska, wants Republican support for the Baucus bill, which is the baseline for the amendment action in the Finance Committee. Max Baucus also wants Republican support, enough to vote against things he says he supports. Right. First, why are Democrats like Nelson and Baucus more concerned about the other party than the members of their own that they might lose? And second, why all this concern for a Republican Party that would happily steamroll the Democrats?
Yeah, well, let me take the second question first, David. I think that people like Max Baucus and Ben Nelson don't really understand the Republican Party of today. It's a thoroughly grassroots-based conservative party that's been back on its heels, thinks it found its identity in protest over the summer, and is not going to support this measure in any way, shape, or form institutionally. Maybe a senator or two considering it, but even they are doubtful. So that's the first part. I don't think they understand what they're dealing with. The Republicans are in a rejectionist mood. That's number one. Number two, I think in conservative states and red states, take Nebraska, for example, somebody like Ben Nelson, if he's going to vote for something, would love to have Republicans on it as well so he can say they joined with me to try to protect himself.
To what extent was today a performance to let members have a forum before the real work happens between the House and the Senate?
Well, that would be too cynical to say it was just that. I think it's partly that. But the whole objective here is to get something voted out of the committee, get it voted on by the Senate, get it sent to the conference committee. You said there's, nothing so this is a fascinating markup. Well, if people are into this process, and by the way, David, the polls show that the American public is following this pretty closely. They know that now there's not going to be a conference committee and these other votes down the road. So, yeah, it was some showing off, but it's just to get the thing out of the garage. Imagine them trying to push this vehicle that sort of won't quite start. They're trying to push it out of the garage and get it started.
Well, as far as the two people who are driving this car, Max Baucus and President Obama, Max Baucus, do you envision a scenario whereby at the end he will vote for a public option despite the votes that he cast today in his own committee? And secondly, is President Obama happy about the action today?
Well, I think in Baucus's case, it depends on what the final bill is, David, and we're a long way away from that. So who knows what Baucus will do? It's impossible to predict, and people have gone broke trying to predict Max Baucus. In the case of Barack Obama, he wants something he can call historic, and he'll call virtually anything he gets that. Just look at the way he's handled this whole process. He's let Congress do the whole thing. He's drawn no lines in the sand. He's gone off and done a million other things. He's letting Congress chew itself up and spit itself out in this process. If he can get something where he can say that tens of millions of more Americans are covered, even at taxpayer expense, and if he can say we put some kind of federal regulation on the health insurance industry, he'll call that historic, even though the health insurance industry and big pharma and all the other parts of the medical and healthcare industry have really come out pretty well in this process, getting taxpayer money to pay for new customers for them.
The White House has been signaling that it will not fight for the public option. There are the rumblings that perhaps now maybe the Democrats might get to 50 votes for the public option. Through the normal process, they would would need 60 to pass an overall bill. How does that complicate things as far as Democrats? Do they go the 50 route or the 60?
Oh, that yet to be seen. But what's probably going to happen, David, and this is maybe still 6 weeks or 2 months down the road, is that there'll be a final bill coming out of conference. Then the Senate will have to vote on that. They'll need to get 60 votes to shut off, to allow debate to proceed, cloture. And then after that, they won't need 60. They'll only need 50 or 51. They got to have a chance of getting that, depending on the wording of public option. It'll be a test public option. It'll be in a few states. It'll be written like the final peace settlement in Palestine.
Okay. Howard Fineman of Newsweek and MSNBC. Howard, thanks as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you, David.